The house shook with a loud crash. It was as if someone or something spoke or a glass shattered. Why did you bring me back to this world of sinners? That body is now a burden to the earth. Blood from my body has soaked the ground, Mother. The cold touch is my due. But the bullet inside is like a poison, and the sword has been withdrawn. In that pain, I can't stay still. Grandfather wiped his tears and said in a very serious voice, "Friend, until justice is served for your bloodied body, Gambia's soil lacks peace. Who betrayed you? Whose nails have scarred your aged body like this? Fearlessly, dear friend. Today, there will be no veil before the truth." Merle's spirit sighed deeply, in a tone of extreme sorrow and agony, and began to describe that horrific moment. Will I find you? I welcome all of you. I am Russell, hoping you are all well. I am also well and under the good shelter. We will definitely go to a new event at 1 o'clock, an African incident sent to us by Mehdi Hassan. Without further ado, let's go directly to the event as it is written. Greetings to Russell Pai and Assalamu Alaikum. I hope you are all healthy and always part of the good team. I am Mohammed Mehdi Hassan, a devoted fan of Russell Pai and Boot.com, writing from Dubai, United Arab Emirates. At the beginning, my regards to dear Russell Pai. Many greetings. Sincere love and peace to Russell Pai and the Boot.com team. Today, we are here with another bone-chilling and extremely mysterious event from the Bag of Bagler and Lalaratu. I have collected this event from my African friend, GD Bag. Russell Pai and all listeners, you know that the home of Bengal's grandfather is in a coastal region of Gambia, and he belongs to the Jola tribe. Before delving into the main event, I want to take you to that coastal settlement in West Africa's Gambia, where some ancient social customs still exist, which will surprise you. One of them is Kanpurang. Today, I will tell you in detail about Kanpurang. To the Mandinka and Jola communities in Gambia and Senegal, Kanpurang is not just a fictional character or a common masked person. It is a powerful spiritual shield of their society and culture. The literal meaning of Kanpurang is less significant than its profound significance. It is considered a kind of spiritual entity symbolizing cosmic justice and social order. When injustice increases in a society or a criminal cannot be found, then the invisible shadow of Dankarang awakens. Kanpurang's appearance is extremely terrifying and blood-curdling. It is not made of ordinary wood, soil, or cloth. Its entire body is covered with red fibers from a special tree that grows deep in the forest. This red color symbolizes fire, which burns and turns evil to ashes. On its head is an ancient wooden mask that looks like an ancient warrior staring directly at you. And the most terrifying, the source of fear lies in the two sharp swords it holds. When the symbolic figure of Kanhu Rang is brought into the community, it vigorously clashes the two sharp swords together. I've heard that it supposedly exists in reality, and its presence can be observed at various times. Anyway, when the metallic clanging sound of Kanhu Rang pierces the silence of the night and spreads all around, no one in the village dares to stay outside. They believe that this sound not only scares away evil spirits, but also makes the hidden sins within humans tremble. It is not merely a means of instilling fear. Kanhu Rang is especially invoked to protect and educate young people during their social training, keeping them away from the shadow of malevolent forces. Even UNESCO recognizes this ancient practice as an invaluable spiritual heritage of humanity. It's been twisted. Now, let's get to the core of the event. The focal point is magic. In the unknown world, we often hear about white magic and black magic. White magic is primarily used for healing, well-being, and curing ailments. It benefits people and brings peace to the soul. On the other hand, black magic is extremely vengeful and destructive. Its sole purpose is to harm people, even slowly leading someone to their demise. But right between these two extremes lies a strange and powerful force known as red magic or right magic. In some cases, red magic is primarily a spiritual means to restore peace and justice. It is not blind vengeance like black magic. When a criminal remains beyond reach, red magic is used to summon the fierce form of Kanhu Rang, confronting the criminal with a mirror of their deeds. This magic directly affects the blood and nervous system of the person, no matter where they hide. The pull of red magic brings forth the sound of Kanhu Rang's sword. It strikes the mind like a hammer. Inside the bones, an indistinct burning begins, known in mystical terms as supernatural fire, until the criminal confesses their sins or reveals the truth. By then, it's a game. No. It creates a living hell for the murderer or the sinner. With this background in mind, you will understand why and how the Gambian tantrics use red magic as a tool for social justice. Now, let's begin the main story. I'm going to present it to you just as I heard and learned it. So, let's get started. I don't remember the exact time, but it was one morning in either 2000 or the early 2000s. That day, the sky over the coastal region of the village turned an unusual shade of red. The sound of the wind coming from the Atlantic Ocean, combined with the relentless rustling of palm leaves, created a strange, melancholic, and ominous tune. Typically at this time, the fishermen of the Jola community would set out with their small boats to fish in the sea or the Gambia River. But today, the entire village seemed to be enveloped in an eerie silence. That silence was suddenly shattered. The meaning of red and black. A heart-wrenching scream from the village chief's house revealed that the chief is missing. It is noteworthy that among the Jola community, the term Alcalo, which translates to chief, holds great respect. Although there are modern governmental systems like presidents or ministers here, but to the ordinary villagers, the chief is the first and foremost authority. The news spread like wildfire throughout the village. In the ancient settlement of Gampir, the chief is not just a leader, he is the village's shadow and ultimate guardian. There was no room to stand in the courtyard, as the chief's eldest son, with an unusual artificial anxiety on his face, repeatedly lamented loudly. However, the village elders noticed that Moral's bed was not at all disheveled. There were no signs of a struggle. Yet, the man was nowhere to be found. Before the morning fully broke, a woodcutter came running with news that the body had been found in the northern part of the village, a place the villagers considered cursed and usually avoided. When the villagers arrived there, a gruesome scene greeted them. Moral's body lay abandoned, but it seemed as if it wasn't a wild animal, but rather some inhuman rage that had ravaged him. There was a deep wound near his throat. Morning is about to come out of the 2 p.m. quote. The most mysterious thing was that on the ground around the corpse, it seemed that someone had plowed deep, and the people of the village stood beside his frozen body. Everyone wondered why the respected Moral was targeted. Could it be some kind of enmity? Behind the mystery lies something terrifying, and the village is engulfed in chaos and unrest. People began to whisper that this death was not natural. If revenge is not taken, a curse will fall upon the entire village. At that very moment, someone pushed through the crowd and stepped forward. Baglar Dadu. His stern face and sharp gaze were fixed on the corpse. The bloodstains not only marked the ground, but also cast a deep shadow over the village's fate. The entire village was still engulfed in the heat of the tragedy surrounding the Moral's mutilated body. Even at noon, a chilling fear seeped into everyone's bones. Some were weeping, some seething with anger. Others were paralyzed with fear. At that moment, an elderly villager named Mustafa pushed through the crowd and took Baglar Dadu's hand. Mustafa spoke with urgency. "You cannot remain silent. Our village guardian has been slaughtered like an animal. Are we to sit idly by? Isn't there something in your herbal and mystical knowledge that can identify this monstrous killer?" Before Mustafa could finish, a chorus of voices rose from all around. They all rose together. "Yes, Baglar, use your magic to find the killer. We want justice." Baglar Dadu, for a long time. His gaze was fixed on the Moral's corpse. He knew this task wouldn't be easy. Just then, the Moral's eldest son pushed through the crowd and stood in front. His face showed a strange restlessness, beads of sweat on his forehead, as he raised his voice as much as possible and said, "Stop it, all of you. What have you started? Catching a killer with magic. Are we still living in the Dark Ages? Or is it the police's responsibility to find my father's killer? I'm arranging to call the police from the city right now. I don't want to waste time on this supernatural nonsense and give the killer a chance to escape." Hearing the son's words, a murmur spread among the villagers. But Baglar Dadu looked calmly at the Moral's eldest son. That piercing gaze sent a cold shiver down the son's spine. And a young man from the village shouted out, "Police! How will those city folks understand the mystery of our coastal village? They'll come after 7 days, write a report, take their money, and leave. We don't want the police's judgment. We want the village's justice, and there's no greater judge in this area than Baglar Dadu." Moral's eldest son was a bit taken aback and stammered, saying, "I mean, there's a matter of law, you know." Baglar Dadu sighed deeply and spoke. "The magic you're talking about is no ordinary trick. To identify Moral's killer, I would have to perform a spirit summoning ritual. This is an ancient and difficult art, forcing a dead spirit to return. Going against nature carries risks. If the spirit's wrath cannot be appeased, death is certain. A dreadful silence fell around as Dadu's words revealed the gravity of the situation. But thinking of the villagers' desperation and Moral's restless spirit, Dadu steeled his resolve. He looked directly into Moral's eldest son's eyes and spoke in a calm voice. "Don't you want your father's soul to be at peace? If we bring back his spirit to ask about the killer, you shouldn't have any objections. Should you? You're scared." Everyone's curious gaze is now dead on the eldest son. He realizes that if he interrupts him anymore, everyone will suspect him. His throat was dry and woody, and he was afraid if he entered anyway. Why should I be afraid? All right, since you insist. If nothing happens, I will definitely call the police. Meanwhile, silently, Grandpa Lala was observing everything with his calm demeanor. Yet, his experienced eyes were keenly watching every event unfold. Grandpa Bagla now, with his trusted shadow companion and another experienced practitioner, perhaps today. Ibrahim signaled to Grandpa. Grandpa knew that this spirit summoning magic was no ordinary trick. Rather, every step of it was extremely risky. So, he spoke in a serious tone. "Get ready." After a magically difficult decision to bring back the soul from Muran's house, a silent morning journey set out as the afternoon sun poured down into the western sky. The body was taken to Bagla's grandfather's house on a cot that day. In the daylight, Bangla's grandfather and Lala grandfather had already gathered and arranged the magical materials. Their process was flawless. First, they collected slender sticks at 2 o'clock, which were used to tightly bind Moral's hands and feet. This binding was crucial because when the spirit possesses the body, it can become unnaturally strong. Then, goat fat was dried and hardened like wax. Special oil, a large and some small clay pots, and pieces of wood were collected. As the sun disappeared into the western sky, an unusual silence descended upon this coastal region of Gambia. At that moment, Bagla's grandfather signaled to the others. As the last light faded, they carried the body into Bagla's grandfather's small healing hut, closing the door of the thatched house. In the dim light, Sidnith's body was brought to the center of the room. He sat in the seat of Bagla's grandfather. Pieces of large earthen pots are busy decorating the wood. And Lala Grandpa pulled out that 2 o'clock thin piece of wood. He tied the body's right arm, right leg, and left arm to the other with a wooden stick extremely tightly. Afterwards, small clay bowls were arranged in a circle around the corpse, and wicks made from goat fat and a type of cloth were prepared and lit in each lamp. As soon as Bangla's grandfather lit the fire in the large clay pot or cauldron in front of him, the entire room filled with the acrid smell of burning fat and thick smoke. Unable to withstand the clash of smoke, Grandfather, Lala grandfather, and the third healer stepped outside the hut for a moment. Then, Preeti the healer prepared well for the spirit summoning today. After teaching the magic incantations, they each took their seats, with Bagda's grandfather sitting in front of the fire pot as instructed by Bagla's grandfather. Grandfather Val and the other healers sat on either side of the corpse, at the head and feet, pressing down with all their might. Then, in a solemn tone, everyone began chanting the incantations. Within moments, a miraculous transformation started inside the hut. The earthen floor suddenly trembled. The flames of the fire in the pot turned bluish and began to leap, while the smoke spirals formed a ghastly shadow over the corpse. Just then, Grandfather, holding the fire pot, began circling the body, chanting the final incantations. Despite the blazing fire touching Grandfather's palm, it remained unharmed. Suddenly, The dead Moral's body jerked, and Grandfather, along with another healer, held the wooden frame firmly. An eerie groaning sound started emanating from within the corpse. Just then, the room's temperature dropped by several degrees. The lifeless body rose, but due to the wooden restraints, it could only writhe. Eventually, the body calmed, and breaking the room's silence, a ghastly voice emerged surrounding Moral's bloodied body. A bluish smoke swirled around. The heavy scent of burning goat fat and the flickering lamp flames made the walls tremble, and Moral's open eyes suddenly seemed alive. Yet, there was no compassion in those eyes, only a reflection of infinite agony. Shaking the room, a broken and anguished voice, as if from Moral's spirit or someone else, spoke. "Douglas, why have you brought me back to this sinful world? This body is now a burden of earth. My blood has soaked the ground from my body, that ground. A cold touch is my due, but the bullet, like a poisonous sword, has pierced through, causing such pain. I cannot remain still." Grandfather wiped his tears and said in a very solemn voice, "Friend, until justice is served for your bloodied body, Gambia's land won't find peace. Who betrayed you? Whose nails have so cruelly marked your aged body? Fear not, dear friend. Today, no veil will remain before the truth." Moral's spirit let out a deep, sorrowful sigh and began to describe the horrific moment in a heart-wrenching tone. Whom I considered Bogla as a piece of my own heart. Someone I personally nurtured and raised with my own hands. If anyone dared to look at him harshly, I would roar like a tiger. In the end, it was my own blood who killed me. Hams, my eldest son. When Moral's sorrowful voice echoed in every corner of the hut, the temperature in the room seemed to drop a few more degrees. The spirit began to speak that day, 100, in the evening. When he said to me, "Father, let's go to the northern yard. I have a secret consultation with you at 1 o'clock." Did I know that in the darkness of that night, someone had already designed my grave? I had shared so many dreams with Prithvita, resting my hand on her back. As soon as we reached that desolate clearing, he suddenly pounced on me like a wild beast. I was taken aback. I thought perhaps an enemy had attacked me. But when I saw my own son's strong hands grasping my old father's neck, in that instant, my heart broke. I looked into his eyes. I wanted him to see the face of his childhood father in my eyes. In a voice filled with anguish, I said, "Father, it's me. I am your biological father." Your hands aren't trembling. But there was no compassion in his eyes. Baglar was consumed only by a demonic lust for power and the allure of the throne. He grabbed my throat with all his might. As my breath was being cut off, my eyes felt like they were about to burst from their sockets. At that moment, I still didn't see any remorse on his face there. It wasn't his own. He slaughtered my father like an animal, as if I were not a human being. I am here. I am as moral. I had almost completed my time. I would have soon handed over this honor and the keys to the village to my eldest son. But why? Why? How could he murder his own father so brutally? Yet, how did it happen? After hearing the horrific truth from Moral's spirit, a silence fell inside the hut for a few moments. The three present healers, Beglaw's grandfather, Lala, and the third healer, were seething with anger. At the same time, they were utterly shocked. How could someone kill their own father out of greed for power? Beglaw's grandfather closed his eyes for a moment, trying to calm himself. Then, with a trembling voice, he addressed Moral's spirit. Friend, may your soul find peace. I swear to you by the holy land of the Gambia, this Baisakhi is the judgment of injustice. The judgment will be so severe that no one in the area has ever seen anything like it. Your killer won't be spared. After this assurance from Grandpa, he secretly released the spirit of the Moral from his magical bindings. The smoke around the corpse spiraled upwards like a long sigh, gradually dissipating. However, even after calming the Moral spirit, a complex tension settled within Beglaw's grandpa's mind. Before Lal-Tadu and the third healer could lose their senses, he wanted to rush outside to punish that scoundrel. But Beglaw's grandpa stood firm. They walked their path. He stopped. He spoke in a low voice, but with great firmness, saying, "Stop. We can't go out and speak the truth right now. It's better to suppress our anger and remain silent for the time being." Grandfather Lal asked in surprise, "Why the spirit of Beglaw?" Awakened by the intensity of the sound, the furniture in the room began to shake, and the flames of the lamp started leaping like mad. Grandpa then shouted loudly, "O Kan-Karan, Holy Spirit!" In the air, claims and such were mixed with the sound of Kan-Karan's sword, accompanied by a moaning that was impossible for ordinary ears to hear. Beglaw and Nala-Dadu realized that the red magic wheel had turned. The invisible chain of this magic has now pierced the killer's bones, and wherever he may be, the shadow of Kan-Karan will haunt him like death due to the effect of this ritual. Every breath he took would then become like fire, and a lament would begin within his bones. Finally, after completing this process, Lala-Dadu lit a beedi from his pocket, released a cloud of smoke, and said in a serious tone to Beglaw-Dadu, "This big son of the 12 leaders will understand the value of things." His eyes still fixed on the symbolically drawn figure of the big son of the leaders in blood. He slowly looked towards his wife. His voice was much deeper and more resonant than usual, filled with greed. And addiction degrades a person to a level lower than that of an animal, drool. He thought that by washing away his father's sacred blood, he could establish his own reign in the village. But he doesn't know that the soil of the Jola people does not tolerate betrayal. After that magical dark night passed, an extraordinary and sinister event began in that ancient settlement of Gambia. The invisible noose of the red mystical wheel spinning in Beglaw's grandfather's house slowly started tightening around the neck of the village chief's eldest son. The next 7 days were about to become a living nightmare for him on this earth. He was compelled to admit what happened to him during those 7 days. I am now going to describe it. On the very first day, The eldest son began to feel that his body temperature had increased beyond normal. It has increased beyond normal. Even if he thinks about it, perhaps the guilt and remorse of killing his father and the hard work have made him unwell. But from the second day, the weather changed. Whenever he wants to drink water, it feels like he is swallowing boiling hot oil. His chest aches with thirst, yet when he reaches for water, it feels like his tongue will scorch. And in my ears, that harsh metallic sound kept resonating incessantly. He looks around, but there's no one nearby. Yet he feels as if someone is standing right behind him, sharpening a sword against another. On the third or fourth day, his vision started to blur. Now, in broad daylight, he sees a monstrous red figure in the corner of the room at 1 o'clock. That's him. Ear. The red foliage of the fara tree covers the judge. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his father's bloodied body lying in the north floor. Reaching out, calling him on the fourth day, it seems as though boiling lead, not blood, begins to flow through his veins, igniting a fierce burning within his bones. He started to claw at his own skin with his nails, as if someone had lit a fire beneath it on the fifth and sixth days. By the sixth day, he had become completely deranged. The villagers saw their new leader with disheveled hair, bloodshot eyes, running madly through the village paths. Occasionally, he would suddenly stop and flail at the air, as if an invisible force was striking him with a sword. He kept shouting, "Let me go. Those red threads are choking me. Father, Father, forgive me." Moreover, cries of anguish from the Puishajika started emanating from his room, and no one dared to approach him. Those who did saw a bluish smoke emerging from the elder son's body, something impossible for any ordinary person. Seventh day. The final confession came on that seventh day when the sun's light touched the coastal sands. The leaves of the mango tree have turned pale and spread out. The entire village gathered in front of the headman's courtyard or house. Just then, the eldest son crawled out of the house like a madman. His royal attire was torn. His whole body was scratched and bloodied by his own nails, and he collapsed face down in the middle of the yard. He began to cry out loud. Suddenly, he lifted his head and looked at everyone. His eyes seemed about to pop out of their sockets as he started to speak, trembling. "I can't bear it anymore. Someone save me from the fire," because everyone was stunned and kept staring at my lap, which was burning intensely as if with a sword. Then, sobbing, he began to speak publicly about that secret father. I have killed my father. I slaughtered my birth father with this hand. Blinded by the lust for power, I had lost my way. That evening, I took my father to the northern yard with a deceptive smile. As he placed his hand on my back and spoke words of affection, I suddenly grabbed his throat from behind. Struggling to breathe, he managed to utter, "Son, I am your biological father." But my hands didn't shake. I slaughtered him like an animal with a knife. I was addicted to money. The villagers received a huge amount of money for donations. I told my parents to embezzle the money. But he is an honest man. He rejected my proposal and instead threatened me. Now I'm thinking I won't entrust this huge responsibility to a greedy boy like you. Hearing my father's words, I got angry. I was scared. "All right. I've made a cruel plan to remove him from the world. I didn't realize I was doing something wrong. As he spoke, he began to bang his head on the ground. He clasped his hands together and begged everyone for forgiveness. Please forgive me. Give me any punishment, but save me from this red magical fire. I see my father every moment before my eyes. He is piercing my heart with the tip of a red-threaded Kanku-colored sword. A dreadful silence descended among the villagers who held the man in high regard. He is his child. He killed like an animal. After this truth gold, the blood in their bodies began to boil. Many people came out with sticks in anger. Bengal's grandfather and grandfather stood in front of the crowd when the eldest son's demonic confession. The sound of the wind echoed through the entire village. The blood of hundreds of villagers in attendance began to boil. The fists of the young men standing with sticks tightened, and the accumulated hatred of the crowd was about to erupt like a volcano. Just then, Bagla's grandfather raised his hand and stood in front of the crowd. Lala Dadu stood beside him, and Bagla's grandfather thundered, "Stop! None of you will lay a hand on him. Do not taint your hands with his impure blood." For him, death would become an easy reward. Laltu added in a serious tone, "We are tantrics. We're not murderers. The curse of the Kanku color has gone into the necklace. He will not die in our will and will wander like a madman on this coast for the rest of his life. His every breath will be as hot as fire, and the sin of killing his father will carry on for the rest of his life. Death will not be caught, yet life will be elevated."